Welcome back, folks. It's time for part two of the penny stove versus the off-the-shelf on meth stoves. It's testing time, so let's get straight to it. From where we left off last time, we've got our two stoves, and first thing I wanted to do was just weigh them. I already knew that the penny stove was lighter, but I wanted to see exactly how it measured up. So as you can see, the off-the-shelf stove is 65 grams on its own, 85 with its lid, and just over 105 with the flame control cap on it. And then the penny stove, which doesn't have any of that stuff, comes in at 13 grams. I can't express just how light that really is. It barely feels like anything in your hand. So as I said on the previous video, you have to prime this stove, which is one of its major drawbacks. I talk a little bit more about the pros and cons at the end. I was a little overexcited at the time, and I might have said things like, it's amazing and I love it and it's brilliant. There is one major drawback, and that is that you have to prime this stove, so you have to spill intentionally meths, and in this case a little bit too much meths, around the actual stove on top of something to allow the stove to actually prime up to heat. Once it reaches heat, which you'll see quickly here, I've sped this up a little bit just to give you a quick glimpse of how it works. Once it's burned off those meths around the outside, as you can see now, the flames are actually coming out the hold and the stove is burning under its own steam effectively. And that's it. That's how the stove works. And as you see, it's lovely clean blue flame, a little bit of yellowing starting to creep in there towards the top. But it is quite aggressive, as I mentioned at the end. So it's just a little bit heavy with its fuel. And this is what it looks like when it's burned down to almost nothing. Just barely see that blue flame. So we pop it in the mount that came with the, that stand rather, that came with the Trangia burner off the shelf. And I've just literally taken the pan element out of my 14cm Zebra billy can, just the pan itself and the lid, and we're just going to pop them on top of the stoves, light the stoves up and see how long it takes to boil that water up. I've got exactly 1 cup's worth of water in there, so I know exactly how long. Once again, as you can see, I managed to spill too much meth everywhere. I've got to work on that. So we just simply pop the pan on top of the stove. That's what she looks like when she's burning. She actually makes a bit of a roaring noise, but there's too much background noise. And after a remarkably short 4 minutes there, the water was up to a nice rolling boil. Perfect for cooking food or whatnot, or making your cup of tea or coffee at that point. So let's flip over to the traditional stove. Okay, slightly less faff. And I will stress this because I don't think I said it enough when I was reviewing it at the time. Less faff. Less faff is good. Simply light the well and it sorts itself out. Okay, but the major drawback of this stove is about to be demonstrated. So same thing, same pan, pop it on top, put some water in it, put the lid on, start the timer on my phone and just see how long it took to get to a fully rolling boil from a just lit state. This is what it looks like burning. Obviously, a lot calmer, a lot more tranquil. At this point, the stove's still just getting itself up to temperature, so the flames aren't coming out the holes at the side just yet. Major drawback, 12 minutes to boil the same amount of water. I haven't left this boiling and only just got back to it. That is literally, it took until 12 minutes. I was checking it every couple of minutes, so bit of a drawback, got to be said. But again, one of the main pros, you could just snuff it with a lid like that.
Right guys, so all done with the tests. Went really well. A little bit of feedback I think now. So first of all, this little fella. So obviously very ferocious. I mean, it literally growled at me when I first lit it. It does require priming, so you have to dribble a little bit of meth. You would have seen me dribble a little bit. Probably a little bit too much meth around the outside, and that's just to get it to start heating up, whereas the normal sort of Trangia style stove, you can literally light the meths that's just in the well, and that does the same thing. It heats the chamber from the inside, but otherwise you get this one lit, and once it's lit, I mean, it really was ferocious. It boiled that pan in just over 4 minutes, and it was hot, really hot. I only put 2.5 sort of lids worth of meths in there, and though I managed to boil that pan of water, then I added another cup of water in, and it boiled that up, and then I just left it with the lid off boiling away because I just wanted to let the fuel run out, just to see what it would do, and it boiled for nearly another 10 minutes. I went off and played a computer game. I was bored. So it was certainly, though aggressive, it's not inefficient. It's not just spewing, burning meths up the side of your pan and wasting them. It really is actually just very efficiently burning. It's extremely lightweight, weighs almost nothing. Downsides, obviously, it's you can't carry any meths in it, so you do have to carry a container of some sort so that you can carry your meths. You can't put it out, you can't control it. It is super aggressive, so ideal for boiling water in a pan. Probably not too bad for frying something over it as well. To be honest, you could get enough heat there to do a nice like hot, quick fry, but wouldn't want it for sort of a slow simmer. Probably too aggressive for that. But otherwise, absolutely chuffed with that. I'm a bit biased, but why would you buy one when you can, half an hour's work tops, and you can pop this thing together and it's brilliant. Anyway, totally could be used as part of a super lightweight setup. I've been using this that came with the Trangia burner, as a set, but in actual fact, just so happens that it fits inside there perfectly too. But realistically, you'd want to be using this one, I think, maybe just with 2 or 3 tent pegs. What am I talking about? It'd have to be 3 tent pegs. It would fall over with 2, Mark. 3 tent pegs, maybe 4, just in the ground around it, sticking up. You could just literally take a cup, not an insulated cup like this one, but maybe I've got some enamel cups. Just pop an enamel cup on top of it, and it would just boil you up a cup of water for a tea or coffee, and you could do the same thing with your pan later in the evening. Really, really good. Really impressed with that. So, yeah, very fast, very aggressive, very light, very simple, uncontrollable, but it depends what you want to use it for, really. Back to the El Trangia stove. Now, I must say, this is not an actual Trangia stove. This one's a knockoff. Really, it's at the end of the day, it's a brass little tin, and it's formed around with a well in the middle and holes around the top. It's, for all intents and purposes, it is a Trangia stove, and I must say, from having used these a lot when I was a kid, I'm quite disappointed, really. Very efficient, but very slow to burn, which I guess in a way is not efficient, because all the time that your pan's hot, if it's -5 outside, and you're sat there with your pan is slowly heating up, all the time it's slowly heating up, the air is slowly sucking the heat back out of it again. So, yes, efficient, at the same time not efficient. It's good in that you can control it if you want to. Frankly, it doesn't get hot enough to worry about controlling it, but you can control it with with this piece. Main benefit, really, I guess for me, as far as sort of weight-wise, is I can fill this with meths right to the top, and then there's a rubber seal inside the lid, and I can just screw him on, and he's meths tight. There's nothing coming out of there, and so I've got my fuel and my fuel and burner all in one less thing to carry. So, they've got their pros and their cons, but honestly, I think this is definitely going to be on my part of my repertoire going forward, especially for lightweight sort of hiking trip. You just want to make a cup of tea, or just a single, lightweight overnight hiking into the middle of Dartmoor or something, and you just need something to boil up a pan of water so you can eat your meal. Really couldn't ask any more of it. So, thanks for watching, guys. Much appreciated. I'm going to step outside now and go and pop this one to the real test outside with a windshield and some tent pegs, and see how it does in the real world. See if it compares to how it did inside. So that's exactly what I did. I came outside with my little cup, 3 tent pegs, a little bottle of meths, a lighter, and the stove, and the penny, obviously. Mustn't forget the penny. And just set it up on the lawn. I've got a little patch here where there's no grass anymore, and so it's perfect for this sort of test. Just pop the tent pegs in the ground. It's a little bit tricky because there's plenty of rocks
in the grass around my house, but I got there in the end, got it all settled. Took my windshield out. You might have seen this before on other videos. A little bit oversized for the job, but it's, you know, it's all I had to hand. And that's it. Just filled up, poured the meths into the stove, got it all fired up. Took some water into the cup. Just really wanted to see how it would, you know, how would it behave when it was outside. The answer is, you know, pretty much the same as it did inside. Again, I can't stress enough that there is a lot of faff involved in getting it primed. You can see the ground's a little scorched underneath. That's because of having to use the ground to prime it. I'm thinking about using like a lid of a bean can or something like that as a little dish to sit underneath it to help it burn a little bit more effectively. But there we go. There's the cup of water boiling just as wanted. I decided to bring the little cafetiere out and make up a little cup of coffee while I was sitting outside. As you can see, the stove is still burning at this point. If left in the wind for long enough without any protection, it will go out. It's not completely unstoppable, simply because the wind will take the heat out of the stove itself and prevent the meths from evaporating. But it's still burning. You can still see a few flickers in the background. It's still going now. Way too much meths really for the job that I needed. I didn't need, I think it's about 30 millilitres I put in there. I really don't need that much to make a cup of coffee. But there we go, cup of coffee.
Well, that's all, folks. Catch you later.